Hi, everyone. Welcome to our EducationUSA Virtual Fair 2022, right? My name is Regina Poleza-Toasa. I'm an EducationUSA advisor at Faculdades Pequeno Príncipe in Curitiba, Brazil. I'm going to switch to Portuguese for just a minute. Boa noite, everybody. Boa noite, pessoal. Meu nome é Regina Poleza-Toasa. Eu sou EducationUSA advisor nas Faculdades Pequeno Príncipe aqui em Curitiba. E hoje nós teremos uma sessão super especial, sensacional, para vocês aproveitarem a oportunidade não somente de ouvir muitas coisas importantes sobre o nosso tema de hoje, mas também ter a oportunidade de fazer perguntas e interagirem com os reps, com os representantes das universidades posteriormente nas Zoom Sessions. Então, o nosso tema de hoje é Life on a US Campus. What does the American Higher Education Institution offer to students? Em português, a vida em um campus nos Estados Unidos. Então, o que as universidades americanas têm para oferecer para alunos? O EducationUSA, falando um pouquinho sobre o EducationUSA, é uma rede global de centros de orientação para estudo nos Estados Unidos, vinculada ao Departamento de Estado do governo americano, que tem por objetivo passar informações abrangentes, atualizadas, sobre oportunidades de estudo nos Estados Unidos, no ensino superior nos Estados Unidos. Durante o nosso evento de hoje, vocês vão ter a oportunidade de fazer perguntas específicas na seção que vocês encontram do Q&A. Então, perguntas que vocês tenham durante a apresentação, vocês coloquem ali na plataforma e, se possível, elas serão respondidas ao final. Lembrem-se que vocês vão ter a oportunidade de falar diretamente com os representantes nas suas salas individuais no Zoom, após o fim do evento. Assim, também, vocês vão poder falar com os advisors do EducationUSA na nossa sala, ok? Então, vamos lá. Let's start the panel off. The first representative can begin. So, Marvin, the floor is yours.
All right. Obrigado, Regina, e boa noite a todos. I'm going to share my screen. And what we have for you today is a presentation on, as Regina said, life on a US campus, what the American Higher Education Institution offers to you as a student. We have 7 wonderful universities represented and 7 wonderful presenters, and we're each going to introduce ourselves very briefly here, and then we'll talk more about each of our sections. So I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Marvin Barahona. I'm an admissions counselor here at Goucher College in Baltimore, Maryland. Samantha, would you want to introduce yourself? We'll go down the road. Yeah.
Perfect. Hi, I'm Sam Thompson. I'm the International Recruitment Manager with the University of Wisconsin-Madison, located in Madison, Wisconsin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kimmy Moothart. I'm an International Admissions Counselor at Iowa State University. We are located in Ames, Iowa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bethany Pinniger. I'm the International Outreach Specialist at California State University, Chico. We're located in Chico, California.
And I am Becky Hansen. I lead the international recruitment efforts here at the University of Iowa.
I'm Teresa Roth, International Admissions Recruiter at Wright State University in Dayton, Ohio. Thank you for having us.
Hi, and I'm Mick Weigel, and I'm an international recruiter for Nova Southeastern University in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
All right, obrigado a todos. So now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Sam, who's going to start off in the beginning.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Marvin. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about practical aspects of moving to campus and living on as an international student when you first are admitted and are thinking about actually moving to campus. So we can hop over to the next slide and I'll dive in. So when you're preparing for campus, after you're a student who's been admitted, when you're thinking about moving to campuses, you want to first get organized. So it's helpful to have an understanding of everything that's required by the universities that you're hoping to attend, everything from final transcripts to information that you need for your visa and for like housing, things like that. Use campus resources. Our websites are built out with lots of the information that you will need as a student. And if you're an admitted student, you'll also probably receive some kind of information from your university that has everything in a checklist. Most any question that you would potentially have about the university and practical steps is probably on a website somewhere, usually on International Student Service Office. I cannot highlight this enough, but keep an eye on your emails. Everything is coming to you in emails. You will probably be getting lots of emails after you're admitted, but all of that will have information about deadlines for signing up for housing, when you need to send anything in, information about getting your student visa started, and you'll start to get stuff about activities for new students. Also, as an incoming student, before you even get to campus, you really want to be mindful of what's required for you for a student visa and the different kind of documents that you need to have submitted for that. Your admissions counselors can potentially help with this, but also you'll probably have an international student advisor that you're assigned, and they can help you with that as well. Truthfully, also, before you even arrive, when you get off the plane that very first day, you're going to want to know where you need to go. So some of our universities in the US, because it's so large, are located in cities that will have an international airport, and it'll be very easy for you to just hop in a cab and get to where you need to be. Other universities, it might take a little bit more. You might need to get off the plane and take a bus or rent a car or different kinds of things. So you want to have an understanding of how you can get to your actual campus location and where you can stay when you arrive. Sometimes you won't be able to move right into housing, so you might need to have a hotel, and you'll also want to have some currency ready for arrival in case you need to pay for a cab or have, an emergency fund when you first get here. Make paper copies of everything. I know as younger students, you probably have everything digital on your phone, but if your phone would get forgotten somewhere or your phone dies and you don't have your charger, it's helpful to have paper copies of all your information. Don't feel stressed because you will have a new student orientation that will help you with all this. So we are professionals that are here to help international students with this information, and please reach out at any point in time for any questions you might have. So you can go to the next slide and I can talk to you about what happens after you've actually arrived. Well, you'll probably have a bank account in the US. Most campuses and international student offices have information about how you can do this. Sometimes at international student orientations, they might even potentially go along with you or have different kind of assistance with that. But you'll want to review the required documents that you need in order to open up a bank account in the US. It's also helpful when you get to campus to find out where your classes are located. That is a great way for you to explore campus when you first get there. You'll get your list, you can see which building, which kind of actual room you're actually located in. And I used that with students as kind of an initial scavenger hunt to kind of explore campus when you first get there. You'll also potentially need to purchase any housing or course supplies, so your notebooks, your books, pens, etc., and then things for living potentially in the residence halls or in your apartments, depending on what's offered to you by your university, so sheets, pillows, things like that. You'll also be attending your student orientations, your international student orientation. Sometimes you'll have a separate orientation where you'll actually sign up for classes, etc. Each university does it a little bit differently, so there'll be a number of things that you need to pay attention to for that. Meet with any advisors that you have. Whether you're sending them emails or you're meeting in person, definitely reach out and ask questions. Make contact with International Student Services. They will be the most helpful for you when you first get there with guiding you through next steps. When you're looking at any information, if you choose to potentially live off campus, or if you're signing up for that bank account or things like that, review any contracts or documents that you receive in depth. If language is something, because sometimes these documents can have lots of legalese, ask an international student advisor, potentially for some assistance, or a friend who might speak English as their first language, so you can go through and fully understand what it is that you're signing your name on, especially if it's something that's not directly affiliated with the university. There are many people who want to do right by international students, but of course there do exist sometimes certain scams. So you always want to run anything by International Student Services to make sure that everything's okay. And definitely take time to explore the campus and the community that you live in. Your first week and first month will probably be a little bit overwhelming, but it's also really exciting. So you want to take the time to get out, meet new people, and see what you have to offer or what the campus has when you first get. So if we go on to our next slide, I think too, when you're thinking about moving to a US university, you really have to think about how you can build community. So this is just a list of information of different ways that you can build community as an international student with your welcome week and month activities, your International Student Services Center or Multicultural Student Service Center on campus. You'll have student orgs and group meetings that you can attend, trying one new activity that you enjoyed back at home and one new one. And make sure that you know that taking breaks for yourself is okay. It does take time to adjust and you will have both highs and lows, but when you get there and you start to have a good experience and make friends, it's really great. So I will just head to the next slide and briefly introduce my institution. The University of Wisconsin-Madison is a large public research university located in Madison, Wisconsin. I would say the location is the first thing that's unique. We're a college town located on an isthmus, so we have hundreds of miles of hiking and biking trails. You can get the best of both worlds. We have 126 majors and 70 certificates across 8 schools and colleges. The guiding principle of our institution is the Wisconsin idea, which basically means that we believe the benefits of an education should extend beyond the classroom to benefit the world. You'll have access to over 1,000 different student organizations, including everything from the Badger Ballroom dancing team to the Fantasy Sports and Finance Club. And once you graduate, you'll become one of more than 400,000 living Badger alumni. So with that, I will pass it on to my next colleague to talk a little bit more about housing.
Hello. So one of your next steps, once you decide which university you would like to attend, is going to be figuring out where you're going to live. So some universities are residential and all students live on campus. Other universities, it's a mix. Some students live on campus and some people live off. So we're going to start by talking about living in a dorm or living on campus. So in the next slide, you can see 2 types of on-campus housing styles. So there's a dorm and a suite style. The traditional dorm style is very, very common among first-year students. And that dorm room is going to, be a room. You have your bed and then your roommate, you share that room together. And then there's going to be a community style bathroom that maybe other students living on your floor or in your house would share with you. The suite style is a little bit unique. It looks different at different universities, but typically a suite style is going to have a bathroom that is a little bit more private to you. So at Iowa State, our suite style is attached to the dorm room and it is shared by 2 different rooms. So 4 people in total would share the 1 bathroom. Other universities, that style could look a little bit different, but that gives you an idea of how the traditional dorm and the suite style could differ a little bit. Some of the reasons why students choose to live in a dorm or a suite style is going to be because it is very common for first-year students and they want to meet other students who are new to university life. Students that live in a dorm or suite style will also typically have most of their meals in the dining centers on campus. So generally, you would not be cooking your own meals if you're living in either of these styles. The room, again, is shared, and there will be some kind of shared living space or common room on the floor that is available to all students in your house. An advantage to living in the dorm or suite style as opposed to an on-campus apartment is that typically it is going to be a little bit more affordable. And again, it is more common among the first-year students. In the next slide, we can talk a little bit about on-campus apartments. So apartment styles are typically more common among upperclassmen. This doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to live in an apartment your first year. It depends a little bit on the university, but upperclassmen do tend to opt for the apartment style, whereas we see that first-year students and even second-year students tend to choose the traditional dorm or suite style. In an apartment style, it is more common for students to cook their own meals rather than utilizing the on-campus residence halls. This doesn't mean you can't use the dining centers, but usually students, when they do have a kitchen available to them in their apartment, they're going to cook their own meals. Usually students will also have a private bedroom as well. So your bedroom is yours and the rest of the apartment is shared between your other roommates. It could be 2 to 4 roommates depending on your university and style of apartment. The apartment style does tend to be higher priced than the dorm style because you have more space, you have your own kitchen, and it is again going to give you a little bit more privacy because you have your own room. So these are the 3 main styles that you can find at universities. Maybe there are some other options depending on where you are going. Again, some universities are going to be fully residential and you're going to be living on campus throughout your entire studies. Other universities, they maybe require students live on campus their first year, and then after that, they can live off campus. And then some, like Iowa State, do not require that students live on campus at any period. So there are going to be some differences across universities in terms of what your housing options are going to look like. The last thing I wanted to talk about is learning communities. So learning communities are really, really great, especially during your first year. Some universities have learning communities that are residential and others that are going to be non-residential. So if you're in a residential learning community, this means that you're going to be living among students that share a similar major to you. So if you're an engineering major, there will be a learning community, an area designated for engineering majors in one of the dorms. So it tends to be a very academic type environment that you're living in. The people who are living on your floor are going to be doing the same projects. They're going to be studying for the same tests that you would be, because you're going to share a lot of classes with students in that community. So a lot of students like the learning community because they want to be in that academic environment and be able to knock on the door next to them if they have a question about the homework assignment. Other students will choose not to be in the living learning community. Some advantages of joining a learning community is going to be higher levels of academic achievement. Typically, universities do notice that students in learning communities have higher marks than students who are not in a learning community. A lot of this has to do with, just the environment that it is. Students are going to have university resources presented to them very often in those learning communities. There's going to be a lot of opportunities for students to collaborate among each other because, again, they are in those same classes. And students who are in learning communities tend to have more knowledge about career opportunities as well, because they are in that more academic environment. So there are definitely advantages to being in a learning community. But again, it is going to be your decision if this is something you want to opt into or not. So my last slide is just going to be a quick overview about Iowa State University. Once again, we are located in Ames, Iowa, which, as you can see, is very, very central in the US. We are a large research university with over 30,000 students, over 900 student clubs and organizations. We currently have about 2,500 international students on campus, and Brazil is actually one of our top countries. We have many, many Brazilian students at Iowa State. So campus life tends to be really, really great. And if you do have questions about Iowa State, if you would like to learn more and have a conversation with me, I will have a breakout session after this. And I believe the Education USA advisors have already shared those links with you. Thanks.
Hi. So again, my name is Bethany. I'm going to talk a little bit about living off campus. We did a quick poll just before this presentation started, and almost all of us have off-campus options for students who come to our campus. And like Iowa State, living on campus is not required at our university either, but most of our students tend to live on campus during their first year. So for off-campus housing options, there's a huge array of options for off-campus housing. And even within these two different styles that I'm going to talk about, there are wide varieties within them. So there are private dormitory style living places, and these are like dormitories, and they operate very similarly to dormitories that Kimmy was just talking about, but they are located off campus and they're owned by a private company. So these tend to be fully furnished. They have all of your beds and desks and everything. There's a clear application process for applying it to move into these dorms, these types of this dorm style living. They're often all inclusive. So your internet, your electricity, some of them even have meal plans that you can sign up for so you don't have to cook. They have live-in housing staff or advisors to help with academic, roommate, personal wellness, anything that might come up, any questions that you have. You've got somebody on staff there who's typically another student who's a little bit older who you can go talk to. There's fun night and weekend programming. So sometimes there are concerts, there are movies, they have gyms, they have swimming pools, sometimes they have barbecues or parties. So there are a lot of ways to be social within that living environment. And you have the option, it's very similar to what Kimmy just described. There are dorm style rooms, there are suite style rooms, and then there are also apartment styles. So exactly what Kimmy showed you in her pictures would be very similar to what that would look like. And you can see pictures up here as well. And then laundry is typically going to be available in the building. So you wouldn't have to go outside, find a laundromat or anything to do your laundry. Now, private housing also takes a variety of styles, and you can, some of them are going to be more apartment style, and some of them might be rooms within a house. Now, typically with private housing, it's going to be unfurnished. So you may have to purchase your own bed and desk and bookshelves and things. And then if it's a larger house, you might purchase with your roommates other furniture, couches, tables, kitchen tables, things like that. There are going to be a wide variety of contract requirements. We call them leases typically. You'll want to read those carefully and see what's required. And as Samantha was mentioning earlier, you are going to want to talk to your international student advisors about this. They're going to be a great source of information for how to get the best information for you. Some apartments will require a co-signer, somebody who signs on your behalf, and some might take your I-20 as proof of your ability to sign on your own. They may not include services like internet, electricity, water. So when you're looking at the cost of rent, you want to know what's included in that. So those are going to be questions that you're going to want to ask. There will be a property manager or an owner who collects the monthly rent. So there'll be, usually you have until the 5th of every month to pay your rent. And then that person also is the person you call if there's a problem, if something breaks, then they will send somebody out to fix it. It can be budget style. There are some off-campus housing that's very simple, very low cost, or it can be luxury style. There are some places that have very fancy apartment buildings. They have swimming pools, they have their own gyms, they have common rooms that you can use. But it's probably the most independent style of living is to live in a private housing. So there's not going to be a whole lot of oversight in terms of, so you'll have more privacy normally, and this depends on place to place, but typically you'll have your own room, you'll share a bathroom, you'll share the living space with other people. So I just wanted to go over the benefits to both on and off campus living. I actually started off campus as a freshman and moved on campus my second quarter because I felt like I wasn't meeting people. And so I'm a huge proponent of starting on campus if you can, because it provides a really great location to meet other students who are newly in town, newly on campus, and to make friends. So with on-campus housing, you've got those built-in social activities. There are things that are going to be happening on and around the dorm, in and around the dorms all the time. You get to live with many different people. You get to meet lots of different people. It's really easy to organize in advance. So when you're coming from Brazil and you're coming to a town in the United States that you may never have been to before, it's really nice to have that set up, to know exactly where you're going to go, as Samantha said, to know where you're going to be living. And then there's a lot of security involved in a dorm situation. Most campuses have their own police department, dormitories have a front desk person. It's a safe place where students all live together. And then as you get to know the city that you're living in, as you get to know your campus, off-campus housing can provide, as I mentioned, a level of independence, ability to come and go without checking in with the person at the front desk necessarily. It can be less expensive. So depending on your location, living off campus can be less expensive than living on campus. And so for a lot of students, they do that to save money. At Chico, about 90% of our students live within 1.5 kilometers of campus, meaning that many of them do end up living off campus after their first year. Privacy, you have your own room. More space. It's, off-campus housing is typically apartment style living. And so you're going to have a little bit more space. You can live with your friends. So often with dormitories, you're assigned a group of people that you live with, and then you make friends within that group and you can move off campus with those people who are now your friends. And then there's a monthly payment plan. So you're typically paying month to month. And then I'll just quickly talk about Chico. We are a university town. We have over 200 degree options in bachelor's and master's degrees. We're a mid-sized public institution with approximately 16,000 students. The university is conveniently located right in the middle of downtown Chico, so everything that you need is really walkable. It's a safe, friendly campus community. We've got wonderful California weather, so it's really nice. It does not snow inside Chico, but it does snow in the mountains around us, so you can visit the snow if you'd like to. We focus on career readiness, and so you have a lot of hands-on project-based learning within your classrooms. And we have international student scholarships available up to $9,500 or 48,730 reais. So if you would like, I'm going to have a breakout room after this session, and I would be happy to share more information about Chico with you there. Thank you so much.
All right, obrigada, Bethany, and hola a todos. So I am going to talk to you today about student services. So for a lot of students, you're in a new country. Many of you have not been able to visit your campus before, so all of this is new to you. And it can be very, very lonesome. It can be very isolating. You can feel very alone. And those feelings are valid, but I do want to say that we have a bunch of student support services available to you. So I'm going to go through and talk about some of the opportunities for help if you ever need help during your time here. And I will start off by saying that Goucher College is a much, much smaller university than many of the universities on this panel, but that does not mean that we do not have the support systems available for you. So specifically for international students, and I know Sam mentioned this before, but there is always an orientation specifically for international students. Here at Goucher, we call it the Interconnect orientation, but the orientation is just meant to help you kind of find your footing, kind of help you determine, where things are. So where's the library? Where do I go if I need help with this? Where do I go if I need help for that? So in essence, it's just an orientation to kind of help teach you what it means to be in a college setting. So orientation can be a couple of days. It can be maybe a week before campus starts, before classes starts. But it's important to get to campus on time so that you do attend the orientation. And I know we mentioned this person before, but the International Student Advisor is a really, really important and useful tool for all of our students. The International Student Advisor helps you in all different kinds of ways. So when you start applying to college, they'll be contacting you for visa issues, for I-20 things, and all of these things that immigration does need in order for our students. But the International Student Advisor does so much more than that. They help you connect to different resources on campus or are able to answer any questions for you. If you need something specific and you don't really know where to look, the International Student Advisor is a really great place to start. And so in many schools, in many giant schools, you may have 2 or 3 different advisors working with you. Here at Goucher, we have one person with a couple of international students working in that International Student Office. Here at Goucher, we have what's called the Center for Race, Equity, and Identity, but many universities have some sort of diversity, equity, and inclusion office. And that office is a really great resource for these what we call underrepresented populations. So the students who are not necessarily prevalent on campus, but the Center for Race, Equity, and Identity is really there for helping you with any sort of diversity needs that you may need. So students oftentimes have questions about who they are, about their identity, LGBTQIA services, services for students who have any kind of accommodations. The Center for Race, Equity, and Identity is a really great office for that. Highly recommend checking out. It may have different names depending on what university you attend to. Diversity might be in the title, and equity, inclusion. There are so many ways that you can go about it, but this office is a really great office to get to know in general. Interfaith services. So if you are religious or if you want to explore a religion, many universities have some sort of chapel or some sort of religious space where you can go and attend services. Hillel is also a really, is a widespread group around the United States for students of Jewish faith. So if you are Jewish, even if you don't identify as Jewish, but you want to kind of explore that area, Hillel offices are really prevalent in a lot of campuses around the United States. If you need help with housing, residence coordinators are one of the best ways to do that. So residence coordinators usually help with on-campus housing. And along with residence coordinators, on your floors, when you move into campus, you have what's called residence assistants, RAs, or they may have different names. on different universities, but they're really there to kind of help make sure that you are being supported throughout your time, make sure that if you have any issues with your roommates, if you have any issues with your room or anything on the floor, residence coordinators and your resident assistants are really great offices, are really great people to just kind of get to know and connect with. If you have any sort of accommodations or if you need some sort of disability help, the Office of Accessibility Services are usually very prevalent in a lot of campuses. Again, these might have different names depending on which campus you go to. May have disability services, it may have neurodiverse, neurodivergent, lots of different titles, but the aim is all the same. It's just to make sure that you are well supported if you have any sort of accommodations. And these are things like if you need extended time with tests, if you need notes written down, if you need very specific accommodations, many universities can help you with that, especially if you have accommodations at the school that you are currently in. A little bit more general academic support. Every school is invested in your success. So we do want to make sure that you are supported throughout your time at Goucher, at Iowa State. So we have some sort of success advisors working with you. Here at Goucher specifically, success advisors are there to help you transition from high school to college as smoothly as possible. And so every school has some sort of advisor working with you throughout that time. If you ever need assistance with writing, if you're working on a writing project, many schools have what's called a writing center to help you with just that. We have students working with you, so like upperclassmen students who have taken a class, they've passed a class, and they can help you with writing. And it's really good to always get an extra pair of eyes on a writing paper, especially if it's a paper that is very important. It could be a final, it could be a term paper, it could be a research project that you're working on over many semesters. It's always good to have an extra pair of eyes on that, and the Writing Center is definitely a great resource for that. A lot of schools also offer extra help for math and science, because math and science is very hard, especially if you're not a mathematician or a scientist. So at Goucher, we have what's called a quantitative reasoning center, or quantitative research center, excuse me. And many schools have some sort of tutoring services available for you. So if you need help with that math project, or if you need help with computer science, we have research centers available for you. Research opportunities is really prevalent in many universities. So if you are in the biology or in any kind of science or social science, definitely look out for research opportunities. They're a really great way to kind of, one, get involved and get to know your faculty members, but two, do some great research opportunities. I know research is very important for a lot of schools. So the more research opportunities you can get involved with, the better. And then additional support, counseling centers, I think, are very important. So if you ever need help with any mental health issues, definitely check out your local counseling center. Many universities have counselors who are long-term, who are there to kind of help you, support with any mental health needs. And then if your needs go above and beyond what the school can offer, they can definitely refer you out to different services. So if you ever need help, definitely check that out. Many universities have clinics or health centers. So if you are injured or if you get sick and you need some sort of assistance, definitely check out your health center. Here at Goucher, we have a registered nurse who works with our students directly, and the same thing with the counseling center. If there is something that you need to go to a hospital for, if you need to go to an emergency room for, our staff can help facilitate that. So again, if you ever need any sort of physical help like that, definitely check that out. And a lot of offices or a lot of universities now are offering wellness centers. So it's not okay to just have, counseling and health. If we really want to focus on mental health and how you can improve, just your general well-being. College is very stressful. It is a long 4 years, and semesters can be very long. So we want to make sure that you're taking breaks, that you're managing yourself, that you're managing your time, that you're keeping your mind in check. So wellness centers are there. Our wellness centers offer things like yoga classes, Zumba classes, meditation spaces. So if you ever need just a space just to kind of relax, wellness centers are definitely the best way to do that. And as you can kind of see in the bottom picture, there are plants there, and plants always make everything better. So definitely lots of great student support. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. There are so many support services available on campuses, and it's impossible to list them all in just one PowerPoint presentation, but there are so many resources available to you that throughout your orientation and throughout your first year, just go exploring, see what offices you can find and see what help and support services you can get involved with, because the more that you can feel assisted, the better that you'll be throughout your 4 years. Just really quickly about Goucher College, we are a small private residential Liberal Arts College in Baltimore, Maryland. We are very small compared to some of the other universities. We have just over 1,100 students on our campus, but that does mean that you get smaller class sizes. So 15 to 20 is our average class size. We had about 39 international students, mostly from all over, China, Japan, Ecuador, Greece, and then students from all over the United States as well. So we very much aren't just a Maryland campus. We are very much a worldwide campus. And one thing that I'll mention about Goucher that is unique to our students is that every student on Goucher's campus gets to study abroad. It is required for all of our students to study in a different country during their time with us. And for international students, it is optional to do your study abroad, but it is still highly recommended. And a lot of our international students do actually take advantage of that and study in a different country during their time with us. So that's about student services, and that's Goucher College. So now I'm going to turn it over to Becky Hansen for student organizations.
Thank you, Marvin. I am Becky from the University of Iowa, and I get the great topic of student organizations. Many students will tell you the time they spent outside of the classroom was just as valuable as what they learned inside the classroom. 4 years sounds like a long time, but ask any graduating student and they'll say, wow, that time went really, really fast. So waste no time, get involved, do as many of these organizations as you can. So let's go tell you now next in the next slide about the value, what you'll gain from student organization involvement. Develop. Student organizations can either be related to your major, but they don't have to be. They can be entirely unrelated. Your involvement can lead you to a new research project or internship through different people that you'll meet that you're just connecting with through those clubs. Often students will tell me the way they ended up with their current campus job, for example, was through another student they met through their student clubs. So student organizations are great for networking and self-development. On the creative side, there are some really serious student groups addressing very current topics like climate change or environmental concerns. And that type of group can again lead to extra research projects that are different from the ones you'll be getting in the classroom. Go exploring. Learn about your culture, but share your culture. We want you to share your culture through many clubs that are music, dance, fashion, food nights. Share that with our American students who may never get to travel to your home country. Student organizations are honestly not always just for you, but again, that way to share your time, your talents, for all of us to become better global citizens and help increase cultural awareness. You're going to engage, immerse yourself across campus. All of our campuses have volunteer groups like these related to just being good humans, like the Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity and building homes, American Sign Language, that's a common club, anti-trafficking initiatives, backpack project, one we do in my Office of Admissions. We provide local elementary kids to get the school supplies they need. So on, and we hope that you'll really strongly consider one of these service breaks and things like that. Lead, connect to campus, develop your leadership skills, discover friendships, meet people, build your resume, and have fun. So let's go to the, again, the categories you saw on that last slide, but I want to show you Gustavo. He's one of our current Brazilian students, very, very involved. We find that to be very typical of our Brazilian students. But I also gathered some direct quotes from students who have done these involvements on campus. One said, student organizations have helped me meet other students whom I might not have met any other way. Think about that, meeting people you may not have met any other way. During my first semester, another student said, and second semester, I participated in table tennis and the soccer club, which helped me stay active. There's a long list of sport clubs that you can be involved with. Another student said I participated in a pre-med club, and that gave me tips about med school and the application process, and it actually caused that student to be thinking about med school earlier than if he had not participated. Another student said being a part of the cultural student organizations gave me that initial sense of community, that sense of belonging. These are really heavy things that you can get from student organizations. And a final one I'd like to share is this student said, I gained a lot of networking opportunities and leadership experience through being involved in clubs like student government and the student advisory board. So a common thread, again, to kind of summarize, students met new friends and connections with peers. Some groups have as few as 5. Others have, hundreds in their group or thousands like dance marathon. So big or small, you will automatically meet new people. Secondly, you're creating a path for leadership. You might start as a member the first year, but then second year, you get a leadership position and maybe even a president of a student club, very typical. Third, you're going to gain communication skills. These are the soft skills that companies are really looking for. Sometimes you'll have to present to within the community or maybe to a school administrator. Employers are really looking for these soft skills in the interview process. So prepare yourself in this way. And finally, many students report they just felt good about themselves because they made a real impact. They made a difference. They're leaving the world a better place through many of the service organizations in particular. So I want to wrap up my segment. I did a survey of the schools presenting today. I asked for what are the most unique clubs that you guys have. So I'm going to run down a list. Remember, there are hundreds of organizations on our campuses, but these are some of the really fun ones. Nova Southeastern in Florida, you guessed it, scuba diving. Try scuba diving while you're here. At Goucher, they have a club called Humans versus Zombies. Humans try to survive a zombie invasion. This involves weapons using socks and marshmallows and foam darts. Really, really fun stuff. So again, some serious and not so serious. Are there any Harry Potter fans? Iowa State University offers Quidditch. Mount yourself on a broomstick and see what happens. At Wisconsin, maybe you guessed this one, Badger Cheese Club. The state's famous for its cheese. I think I'd really like that one. California State offers Chico Baja Club, which members design and build an off-road engine, and you compete with other schools all around the world. How cool is that? Okay. Wright State told me it has a really heartwarming, it's called 4 Paws for Ability. And paws is spelled P-A-W-S, as in dog paws. This volunteer group fosters a puppy for 16 weeks, and then that dog ultimately becomes a service dog for kids with disabilities. I love that one. Finally, here at the University of Iowa, one of our newest ones is called Hyperloop. This is that idea that Elon Musk has for connecting city to city by vacuum pods, speed of light, or practically 45 minutes coast to coast. So this club actually builds and races a pod, and it competes every year at a Hyperloop pod competition at SpaceX in California. So really cool stuff. So I hope you have, this is all meant to spark your interest, to tell you about, these are some are really serious, some are just plain fun. Join more than one. And then the next slide, I'll wrap up by my University of Iowa overview. This is a large public university. We do have 32,000 students. 2,000 are internationals from 100 different countries. Very, very diverse, small city. It's very welcoming and safe. It's easy to get around. Everything students need is within about 15 minutes of where they live on campus. Our downtown is connected to our campus. We're well known for business, ranks in the top 25 in the country. They go to work for the Chicago Board of Trade, Fortune 500, CEOs of companies, on and on. We're very good in engineering. It's one of the top 20% of engineering programs, 6 different programs. Come to my Zoom and I'll talk to you about those. Biology, chemistry, physics, healthcare is very strong here, partly because we have a connecting world-class research and teaching hospital. Again, it's connected to our campus, so students have a distinct advantage in healthcare settings to study that field. This is a place, though, where science meets the arts. So we offer art and music and dance. We have Hawkeyes in Hollywood who are screenwriters or film directors. We're a UNESCO City of Literature and quite famous for creative writing. So come talk to me in the Zoom room. We'll talk about admission and scholarships. I'd like to talk to you later. So we're going to move on next to Teresa.
Thank you. We're going to talk about working in the US. If you can go ahead and go to the next slide. There are different types of work that international students on an F1 visa can participate in. Students are allowed to work on campus. We're going to talk about that more in depth. There is the internship program called Curricular Practical Training, and I'm going to share a little bit about that. And then when you complete your degree program, you may participate in optional practical training. So when you're working on campus, you can go to the next slide. Thank you. In most cases, on-campus employment, you're working directly for the university. You may be working in the bookstore, you may be working within an academic department, you may be working in food services or in the residence hall. You can work up to 20 hours a week during the fall and spring semesters while you're taking classes. You can work, if you're not taking classes in the summer, you can work full-time up to 40 hours. If you are taking classes in the summer, you can continue to work 20 hours a week. You will get a paycheck. You're going to apply for a position just like you would for an off anywhere in your home country or in the US. You apply for the posted position, you interview for the position, you get hired for the position, and hopefully you stay in that position for a long, long time. We depend on our student workers. You get paid generally minimum wage or a little bit better. Our students at Wright State get paid about $10 an hour. While you are completing your degree program, whether it's at the bachelor's level or the graduate level, you may participate in internships. That's called curricular practical training, and you may work off campus. It needs to be in your area of study. It can be paid or unpaid. Generally, you are going to work with the immigration team at your university, as well as your academic advisor. They're both going to sign off on that. It's a temporary position. Generally, it is a completed within one academic semester, which is generally runs August to December or January to the end of May. Thank you. You can go, that when you complete your degree program, you may participate in optional practical training where you're going to gain real work experience in your field of study. And this is available at each level of study. If you do an associate degree, a 2-year program, you may participate in optional practical training. It's generally 12 months. And then you get your bachelor's degree, which is a higher level of study. You can do OPT again for 12 months. And then you can go and you complete your master's degree, and you can participate in OPT again, another 12 months. If you are in a program of study, which is designated a STEM program, science, technology, engineering, math, medicine, and those are specifically identified by the Department of Homeland Security, you can participate in a 24-month extension of that initial OPT. So that's a wonderful way to really gain some expertise in your field of study. One area that I didn't mention on this is graduate assistantships. Graduate assistantships, you generally apply to the department within your major at the graduate level, and you will receive a stipend, which is a amount of funds that you can use for whatever other expenses you have, and it will also cover the cost of your tuition. So these are just some ways of gaining real work experience, building your resume, making some money, and integrating all of that into your academic program. Wright State has about 1,000 international students at any given time. We have about 10,000 students total. So about 10% of our population is international students from 60 different countries. We our international students really contribute to the diversity of the campus, and we're really thankful for you. I'm going to pass it over to Mitch.
Thank you so much. Hey, everybody. So my name is Mick, and I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about athletics. So if you can go to the next slide, Marvin. So I played baseball in college, and so I kind of know what it's like to be a student athlete. I'm not going to talk about scholarships and how to get on teams and things like that today. This is more just about what campus life is like. And some of you might be sitting there thinking, well, I'm not an athlete. I don't want to play a sport at a university. That's a big commitment. And I have options for you as well, which we'll talk about in a moment. But for those of you who are athletes, I'm sure there's some great soccer players out there. I just want to talk a little bit about what it means to be a student athlete on campus. If you are lucky enough to go on to play a sport, a scholarship sport at a university, I think that oftentimes students get an idea in their head that you think of all the good things. You think of kind of the glory of it, so to speak, but there are some sacrifices that you're going to have to make if you're a student athlete, because it is such a big time commitment. Your time management will be critical. So, not only are you going to have your games, your practices, and things like that, but you're also going to have your classes. You're going to have tests, and you're going to have to manage all of that. So again, you're going to have to really practice time management, which is something you can start working on now to make sure that you form good time management skills, because you are going to have to be able to communicate with your coaches when you have exams. You're going to have to communicate with your professors when you have big games. You're going to have to manage that along with your social life. So I think it's very important to keep those things in mind. If you're playing a sport at a college, it's not just going to be the athletics. You are going to have to manage your classwork in there and your studying. And there might be times that your friends are going to parties or playing video games, and you can't do that because you just got out of practice and you hadn't had a chance to study yet. So I think it is important to know you will be making sacrifices, but it's definitely very rewarding. Next slide, Marvin, because I know we're running out of time, so I'm going to move along quickly. And for those of you who maybe are thinking, well, hey, I'm not going to go play a scholarship sport. What does that matter to me? And Becky already talked to you all about this a little bit, but just because you're not, the best athlete in the world does not mean you can't get involved in athletics at a university in the U.S. And there are a couple other ways you can get involved. One is through intramural sports. And those are really relaxed and fun sports. Anyone can participate. They're really just for fun and exercise and getting to know people. And that's something that Becky talked about with getting involved with campus organizations and clubs. But this is especially for those of you who might be introverts, which I was. It's hard for me to go to get involved with different activities. But with athletics, you kind of get outside of your own head and you're just playing and having fun and you're outside. And it is a great way to make friends, a great way to get out and just really get involved in campus life without any pressure. And another way you can get involved with sports is through club sports, which are organized. They do not have scholarships, so they're not going to be quite as strict and not quite as much of a time commitment. But they've got uniforms. You'll probably travel to go play against other universities, and the caliber of play is usually pretty high. So if you play a sport now and you're pretty good, but you don't want to have to sacrifice your studies at all, a club sport could be a great option for you because it's still going to be a pretty high level of competition. I have friends who played baseball with me at university who went on to grad school, and they played on their club sport team in grad school. So, you will see a wide age range and a fairly high level of talent as well. But it is really fun, and it'll still let you get that competition, but without the time commitment that might affect your studies. Next slide, Marvin. And just a little bit about NSU. We are located in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, which you can see here. We're very close to Miami in South Florida, which is a great location for students from Brazil. We have a lot, very easy flights from all the major cities in Brazil. As far as undergraduate students, we have around 4,500. So we're about a medium-sized university, and we have a very diverse student body as well. We have around 1,000 international students on campus, if you count graduate students, and students from about 100 different countries. So we do have students from all over the world. We, of course, have really nice beaches and weather. The average temperature is 25 degrees Celsius. So I would be remiss to not mention the nice weather and the nearby beaches. Next slide, Marvin. So I just wanted to thank all of you for showing up on behalf of all of us here who presented today, to learn a little bit more about our universities and hear about different aspects of living on campus at a U.S. university. And I wanted to thank Education USA on behalf of all of us as well for organizing this event and putting it together. It was very enjoyable, and I hope it's beneficial to all of you. If any of you are interested, definitely you can grab our email addresses here on the slide so you can keep in touch with us. But again, we're all going to be having Zoom sessions that you can pop into right now. So I'd encourage all of you to come by to learn a bit more about each of the universities that presented today.
All right, so I would like, Education as the network, the Education USA Network, would like to thank you so much for the great presentation. You have been great, giving us a lot of interesting information. Since we're running out of time, we are going to focus on one or two questions that we had from students. And please feel free to choose who would like to pick the question. One question that came often was about scholarships. So if the student gets a full scholarship, will that apply to housing? Will that cover the housing costs? And how would that work, please? Who would like to take that?
I can share with Wright State University, our scholarships are awarded and for tuition. It doesn't cover the cost of housing. That's where you're working on campus really can help, that paycheck.
So I would add that I think it's typical that whatever the scholarship level is, full awards are very uncommon, actually. Large awards, yes. Full awards, not so much. But typically an award will be distributed, and if it's on a semester system, half the scholarship is applied directly toward the first university bill. And as long as the student continues the second semester, the second half of that scholarship is applied to the second semester university bill. That's a very common process.
All right. Okay. And the last question, yeah, go ahead, Marina.
You think we have time for one more, and then let's go.
I think we would have time for one more, and then we will move on to the breakout rooms. So the question is, if my family as an international student comes and visit the US, would they be allowed to visit or stay over in the dorm with me? Or if a friend comes and stay a few days with us, can we host them in the dorm on campus?
Yeah, I would say it all depends on where you're living. If you're living in a dorm with like one other person, there's probably not a lot of space there. So I don't think your family would appreciate sleeping on the floor or sleeping, right next to your, to your roommate. A lot of times, if you live in apartments, you might be able to swing it if you have your own room, buy an air mattress. But a lot of these universities have hotels that are like right next door. Like we're right next door to a Sheraton. Some of the bigger cities obviously have nicer hotels. So I would recommend a hotel. But of course, if you talk with your roommate and you want to have a friend over, that's fine. The younger people are more adept to sleeping on floors, and I think some of the older people are. But yeah, it's all about talking with your roommates, just making sure that they're okay with it, and just kind of trying to figure out, what's the best use of space for that.
I'd like to. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say there are a lot of there are a lot of groups called international friendship organizations. These are community members that spend time with international students. They have them for dinner. They build relationships. So that may be a possibility too. If you have family coming in for a week, somebody who's a member of this international friendship group may be happy to host them. And it may give them an opportunity to really experience life in the US.
That's wonderful. So thank you so much for answering these questions. And we will have some more in the breakout rooms. I will switch to Portuguese again. So once again, thank you. Pessoal, então agora é hora de interagir com os representantes nas salas de Zoom individuais. E, muito importante, a gente tem um booth do Education USA também para que vocês possam falar com os advisors e esclarecer algumas perguntas, ok? Então, vocês terão acesso agora aos links das salas, das breakout rooms, E desejamos uma boa noite, excelente evento para todos nós. E thank you so much and have a good night. Bye-bye. Thank
everyone once
you.
again for being
One more
here
time.
and for taking a little bit of time out of your very busy schedules for this very informative session. Thank you so much, and we hope you have productive conversations.
Thank
Thank you
you
so much for hosting us.
Bye-bye. Thank you.